Today, we have Senior Cloud Engineer Abuchi Anosike. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
Oh man, definitely glad to have you on. So yeah, just to kick things off, can you tell us a little bit about your background? What do you do, and how did you get there? Like, what is your educational background? Did you go to a boot camp, etc.?
Okay. Yeah. Great. Great. Thank you, Kevin. So yeah, I got my first intro to tech just from I studied biochemistry, but just from hanging out with other friends who were who are also like electrical engineers, but were interested in becoming software engineers on the side. I got interested in Linux. By the time I graduated college, I got interested more heavily interested in technology than in science. So I went to a boot camp. I went to kind of a boot camp. It was organized by Edureka Institute in collaboration with Purdue University because Purdue University was the one that was giving the certificate. So I got my kind of like my master's in DevOps engineering, and so landed my first job with Strand Diagnostics out in Indiana doing AWS maintenance. Started off like I kind of like a system Linux system administrator, and also like maintaining their AWS IAMs accounts, managing networking, VPC, and all of that. And yeah, I was there for like about a year and a few months, and moved to Pennsylvania and joined Johnson and Johnson. What was with them for about a year, and also eventually. But how I got to the point where I am right now is that I eventually decided to move to Houston because I love the weather, and I heard a lot of great things about Houston, and I was looking to settle down in Houston as opposed to living in the East Coast. So I moved down to Houston, and I got a job, remote job role with NCR, which is a big bank in Atlanta, doing senior site liability engineering, up until March of 2023.
Absolutely. So, like from you leaving the boot camp and getting your first job, like what was the process like? Like, what were some of the emotions you felt, and how did you overcome, imposter syndrome? That's a thing a lot of people in tech feel.
I mean, the imposter syndrome hasn't even left even up till now. I think I have the most confidence when I pair program or like I'm working on a project with a friend. I will a lot of side projects with a friend. But yeah, initially it was difficult because you finish a boot camp and you have that fear, right? Of like, do I know enough to get a job? You know. But then like eventually I got lucky. Strand Diagnostics is a small company in Indiana, and back in 2016, back in 2017, it was way. Of course, this market, anybody that experienced this market would not understand what it was like in 2016 because I remember I just applied to a job one day and went to bed, and like I think a day or 2 days later they emailed me back and they wanted to interview. And I also had a lot of other interviews going on, and so like I just we scheduled the interview, and I think like was it the next day we discussed, and they were very open about the fact that they were looking to bring on an engineer as soon as possible. They was got a couple of questions that they were asking correct, and let me tell you, like it's nothing like it is today because like the questions were I wouldn't say way simpler, but they were much more. They weren't as much interested in like going too heavily in depth as opposed to like just knowing that you had the ability to learn and that you have a lot of the skills that they wanted. And once I proved that, I think like within 2 days they sent me like they said they asked me if I was still like interested in joining them, and they sent an offer letter. And then again, like when I got on the job and I started working, like I started encountering a lot of things that I already knew and a lot of things that I had to like just work, learn on the job. But like for the most part, it's nothing like it is today. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you. But yeah, I definitely agree with you. It's a lot more difficult to get into the industry today. You have to be a lot sharper. You have to have better connections. If you were to get into the industry today as a junior, how would you approach getting that first job?
Um, honestly, I've spoken to people who have 15, 20 years of experience, and even they don't know beyond really optimizing your profile. That's the most important. Optimizing your profile, building projects, and posting it as much as you can. Messaging, cold emailing people. I know that is very very difficult these days because people are not going to even gonna reply your cold emails, but posting your projects, cold emailing people, and then referrals. Like I I've in the past 1 year I've applied to like I've not been keeping count, but I would say at least maybe 400 or 500 jobs, and like it's so amazing how much different like referrals make.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Right now, you pretty much have to know somebody to get in, or just be extremely visible on a platform like LinkedIn. Um, yeah. So, you've been unemployed for how long?
But about 13, 14 months now.
Okay, 14 months. You have 8 years of experience, so that just shows you how difficult the market is. Um,
Exactly.
like what how can you describe the differences in the market, say maybe 2 or 3 years ago versus now? I was laid off last year as well, so I know the feeling, but just for those who aren't aware of the tech market, can you describe it?
Okay, yeah, definitely. So like actually so when I moved out of Houston, so I'm actually an excellent candidate for this because I was right in the middle of the job market in 2022, and I know and I know how like wonderful it was, and I- as opposed to like being right in the middle of it now. So like back in 2022, like beginning of 2022, like if I know that if you apply to 5 jobs, you're gonna get 5 interviews. I'm not even joking. They had recruiters kicking down people's doors. They had recruiters messaging people asking about if you were interested in working. I had recruiters like just literally like I remember I applied to like TikTok, and like within the next day like TikTok was setting up interviews with me, and this was like 2 short interviews, and then they're handing you a job offer. The job I got with NCR, I had one interview. I didn't get everything they were asking correctly, but they asked me what was my skill level in Terraform, and I told them that I was really good at Terraform, and then within like the next day, within like I think like within the same day, they sent me a job offer. Like I showed them that I was very good at Terraform, and then we did the same day they sent me a job offer, and this like and then I had another company who was interested in me, telling me that like when they heard I got a job, they said asking me that they were creating a new role just so I could join their team, their company, but he was on site, so I picked NCR over that because NCR was remote. So that's how interesting it was in 2022, as opposed to now you apply to 100 jobs and you're getting the same like email saying unfortunately we are going with a different candidate. Like it's you'll be lucky to even get an interview, and when you get an interview, like they're asking you questions, and I've gone an interview, and like I think it took the recruiter like 15 minutes to like about 10 minutes to show up, and then like by the time they showed up I honestly it's just because of cultural reasons that I didn't leave. But so that was it. And also yeah, for the most part that's it.
Yeah, when I was in between jobs, when after I got unemployed, let go, I found the interview process is a lot different now. There's like a lot more ghosting. Like you maybe do 4 or 5 rounds, and you're in the final round, and they still ghost you. So, yes, it's completely different.
Right. I haven't even gotten to the final round. Like I have got like in 2022 I got to the final round of interviews. Like I would have like 3 or 4 final round interviews within the space of 2 weeks. But now, like I haven't even gotten to the final rounds of any. Okay, I got to the final round of interviews with Home Depot, and then they said, oh, they were laying they were laying off a, a different team off completely. So they were gonna pick one person from that team that they knew was very good with Kubernetes too to join their team instead of bringing me on. And I was like, okay.
Yeah. So like, how have you been managing to stay afloat? Like, I know that I had to do Uber Eats for a little while to kind of make a little income.
Exactly. So when I first came back in June, I didn't want to do it. But then there's this service called GoPuff out here in Houston, and also like there is I did Amazon for a little while, but I didn't like Amazon because of all the pack they give you so much packages. But then I discovered this new service, and it was just like delivering small packages and like 2 3 people, and then you can make a decent amount of money apart from the driving being horrible downtown Houston some days, but then you can make some small money that you can. It has been keeping me afloat because I keep seeing people saying they are losing their houses, they are losing their apartment, and it's just been keeping me afloat.
Exactly. You definitely gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, I actually didn't mind driving Uber Eats. Kind of let me get around the city, find new destinations. So yeah, I think in times like this, people have to get creative. So like,
Yeah, honestly, it's to the point where like I could see myself like even if I get back into tech, I could see myself just going out and going just doing the delivery like maybe once or twice in a week, or maybe like 2 3 times a month. Just like you said, yes, there are some days we are driving around doing it, especially on like some Friday evenings when doing it and seeing people taking a walk around the city, around downtown and having fun. It's like kind of like therapeutic, honestly.
so like, from the job listings you've been seeing in terms of DevOps, have like the requirements increased? I know like for front end, I'm actually seeing, uh, besides the front end, they also want you to do some DevOps stuff. Like they want you to know Kubernetes, Docker, etc. Like have your job listings been including like more coding or things of that nature than they used to?
Yes, definitely. Uh, it started out with a lot of companies wanting me. It started out with a lot of companies wanting me to. So it started out with like, initially the first signs that this was about to happen was when I started getting out of like security companies wanting me to be like and be very very proficient in Java too, right? And and like that wasn't always the case, right? Like when I got into SCR, like a lot of the other jobs I've worked in the past, they just needed to know that I knew how to write like some Python script, some basic Bash script, and for the most part, you were gonna work with the app teams, you were gonna work with database teams. Anyways, you were gonna work with we. In fact, at NCR we had a separate monitoring team, but so when that happened, they said, oh well, this company they love your experience with DevOps and SRE, but they will wish you knew Java more. And I said, I don't, I don't, I'm not gonna, I'm not, I don't. So after that, eventually the interviews kind of dried up, and so I said, okay, maybe the interviews are drying up because of my skill level in Kubernetes. So I went back. Can you hear me? Can you hear me, Kevin?
Yeah, yeah, we can
Okay.
hear you.
Okay. So I went back and doubled up on my skills and like went really deep into Kubernetes. And after I did that, eventually I posted up some of the work that I was doing with Kubernetes on LinkedIn, and that kind of like gave me some visibility. A couple of companies reached out to me, including a company that was trying to they were I think they are trying to do I forget they're trying to use they're trying to deploy they were deploying AI. They are deploying AI models in Kubernetes clusters so that it can compute on some cells or something. I think they are trying to see if they can speed up the process of drug development by deploying AI models into microservice large computing, and use that to see if they can be able to identify possible drug candidates. But so we interviewed, and they said she said the interview went well, but then like I stopped hearing from them. And then yes, of course, AWS, GCP as well. I am proficient in the three, but then like I said, so now what I'm noticing is people who really want to know that like I had my last interview with Home Depot. Like they really like people who are digging deep. I don't know, asking you really intense questions about Kubernetes, what you have done with it, what you Terraform, what you like, not what you can be able to do with it or what you haven't done with it, but you can be able to do with it, but like you know what I mean. So and then yeah, that's really what I've observed.
Absolutely. So they really grill you on the interview process
Personally.
now. Yeah, yep. So like how do you prepare now for the level of thoroughness in these interviews?
Oh yeah, yeah, that's a very great question. So before, like about 3 4 months ago, it was very very easy for me because I was going hard and I was really wanted to get a job. So it was very very easy for me to like within every week make out time and study for like every week. At least I was studying for like 12 15 hours, probably study like 2 hours, do Kubernetes like 2 hours 3 hours every day. So I stayed very very sharp. But then I did a couple of interviews that I thought was going to transition into a job, even with one security company that was saying they wanted to know how good my skills was in Kubernetes. And when that didn't pan out, it has been a little bit difficult to maintain the same intensity. But just to stay fresh, like now I'm taking a course, Linux administration course, and on Udemy. So that kind of like helps me to stay fresh and active. I just think like 2 months ago, I did a course before my interview with Home Depot. I did a course from it's called Terraform from beginner to advanced. So when you finish doing that and you use Terraform to create firewalls, create Kubernetes clusters that's actually running, assign firewall rules to that, you know, deploy an EC2 instance with that in multiple different locations for your regions and zones. Run variables, do all of that. So I kind of like do all of this to stay fresh, and that has been working out for me. Lately, it's more difficult. Lately, again, in between the delivery that I told you that I do, I struggle to find be able to like keep pace, but I try to at least maybe 20 30 minutes every day still.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I know when things get busy, it's hard to be mentally prepared to study outside of work. So, like, how do you avoid getting burnt out? Because after you do your job in tech, you still have to spend a lot of time outside work studying new stuff, and it's really easy to get burnt out.
Yes, yes. I think honestly, honestly, before I lost my job last year, I was getting to that point, because like trying to keep up with things, just to keep yourself up to date with knowledge, just so because you never really know what is going to happen at any time. But these days I'm learning to take it more easy, and just like you said, it still happens. There's occasions where you notice that you're really about to get burnt out, and then like I could take like 2 3 days off and just trying to like get myself together again before I start going again, and I'll just generally taking it a bit easier.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I like to play video games or something to ease my mind because otherwise, if I keep on studying and going to work just nonstop, it really starts to stress me out. So, yeah, just finding a way to be mentally balanced is extremely important. Um, so yeah, in terms of like relevant job skills these days, what do you see more of, AWS, GCP, or Azure? Out of those three, what do you see like more job postings for?
Yeah, I think I definitely see more job postings for AWS and GCP, and less so Azure. Heavily more AWS and GCP, but definitely, of course, cloud. Um, I don't see much of the DSA for DevOps or SRE. The only places I've seen DSA for SRE or DevOps is like at Google, but for the most part, I don't see it in most of the other postings. And then of course I see Terraform. Terraform is heavy. I see Kubernetes. Kubernetes is heavy. I see companies also talking about scripting, but I don't know how serious they are. Ansible here and there. Honestly, I think that it's just really that the market is really really bad and there's no jobs. I don't like I always tell people, like, I'm so surprised that it's taking this long for me to find employment, because you see roles that are displayed, and is 100% what everything that you have the skills to do, but then you apply and they respond with the same messages, and you know that this is not even your fault.
Yeah, absolutely. I think yeah, you just have to realize it's the market, it's not you. Because before you were easily getting the jobs, but now all of a sudden it's like no company is biting. So uh, yeah, it's important to not to get down on yourself. But yeah, you spoke on some of the common technologies. Can you give the audience, like the non-technical people in the audience, like what is Docker, what is Kubernetes, what is Ansible, like what is Terraform? Can you explain what some of these
Oh, all
technologies are?
right. Yeah, definitely. So, so with Terraform, basically, Terraform is really a way to create infrastructures more repeatedly and more in a more manageable and in a more well, I'm looking for the word. What would be the word to use now? And like, if you don't understand, infrastructures is basically like, say you want to create a server, so which that could be like, basically think of it like your physical computer, but on the cloud. You're trying to create your just like your personal PC, but on the cloud. But of course, you want it to have access to the internet, so you're gonna have to create networking and give it access, depending on how you're trying to do that. And but that's not all you can do. You can also use it to allocate storages, which is basically, yeah, the same thing with your PC. So Terraform kind of like enables you to be able to do this on the cloud. Of course, outside of the cloud too, but we're using like cloud, which is like maybe AWS, the public ones, AWS and GCP. So Terraform lets you create your infrastructures in a consistent way and in a repetitive way. If you wanted to create the same infrastructure that you've created before again, or if you're trying to destroy infrastructure that you already created, the Terraform makes it easy to do that, and that's why it's called. It's a kind of like an IAC tool, which is infrastructure as code, which is a lot of the tools that were created to make creating infrastructures way more easier just by writing them with a type of YAML language script or code, what you want to call it. Ansible is basically used to manage servers that are already existing. If you wanted to install applications on a server on a currently existing servers, especially if you want to do it on a large scale, say you want to manage the same application or security or whatever on multiple servers. It could be like say 1,000 servers, 200 servers, whatever you're trying to do. That's it. And Docker Docker in itself is a way to package applications and these dependencies in small containers. That way, you could easily run it on any environment without having fear that it might crash because of dependency issues or because of environment requirements. So you could package a Docker container and you could run it on a MacBook, you could run it on Windows, you could run it on a Linux or any other type of machine without, because it basically sits on top of the server that is running on, and then just has its dependencies. The only thing it uses is actively is the OS of the server that is sitting on, but it has the requirements that it needs to run the application already packaged in a small container. And then Kubernetes is a way to manage, orchestrate thousands or hundreds of thousands of these containers easily. So you can do deployments of applications inside of a container with Kubernetes and manage it and do the maintenance and do the networking, monitoring, and anything you want to do. So if you think of Docker as a container, right? Think of Docker as a container. If you think of Docker as a container, you could think of Kubernetes as a container, as a shipping boat that you're using to transport multiples or thousands of these containers, and you can use it to maintain them.
Oh, thanks for the breakdown. Yeah, so like I know DevOps, that could be a really stressful field, deploying servers, making sure they stay up. Can you tell us about some of your most challenging moments in your career?
Yeah. I wouldn't say there's any one particular challenge, the most challenging moment in my career. Like I feel like I feel like it's just the day-to-day challenges. I feel like DevOps, of course, Kevin, as you know, DevOps is just a challenging career by itself. But I with my initially got my bachelor's in biochemistry, like I said, and then got my master's in DevOps, and then I got another master's in management information systems. So like dealing with like high level requiring topics and field has always been, I've kind of like built myself to be able to do that. But challenging moments, I think one of the most challenging moments of my career was when I was new at NCR, and we wouldn't we weren't very clear about when we could do deployments. It was just a lot of back and forth about when could we do deployments to production and when could we not do deployments to production. And so one day I had, because if again, like I said, it wasn't clear, so we were expected to ask someone. So I asked someone who's been there way longer than me, and he said, "Yeah, it's okay to deploy to production." And I had deployed what I wanted to deploy to production, which was just a minor SSL certificate modification. But I guess there was a lot of apps that was depending on the certificate. So there's a lot of apps that are dependent on that certificate that I modified. And when that didn't work out, a lot of the apps started failing. And this was around like during peak hours, so around 3 p.m. So, and then when we tried to troubleshoot, again, I wasn't as experienced in Kubernetes back then as I am now. So it was even difficult to be able to like troubleshoot and figure out, and also during postmortem, like figure out why the pods kept failing with the apps in it, which was because the apps was not able to get the certificates again now, because the apps was no longer able to get the certificate that they needed to do verification before sending before as loading traffic, right? So it just kept failing over and over. But it was like quite challenging because you again, there's the stress of, oh, you broke this, and then you are not as experienced to know what even broke or to even understand what was going on in postmortem was a lot. And then again, of course, there's a lot of other just challenges like especially again in SRE, sometimes your servers are failing and you don't understand why they're failing, or maybe there's a versioning issue. Just yeah, it could be, there's always like one challenge or the other.
Absolutely. So, for my final question is, what do you see as the future of the field? What are the emerging technologies? What are the things that someone who wants to get into the field, what should they be looking out for and focusing on?
Okay. I would say, first of all, if you want to get into DevOps now, just go work as a Linux system administrator for like a year or two. It's gonna open your eyes to so many things. That would be like, I honestly, I sometimes eventually, when I now that I'm taking this, like I think I told you earlier that I'm doing a Linux as administrator course. Now that I'm doing it, like I'm seeing like the fact that I worked as a Linux system administrator for only 4 months was kind of like a mistake for me. I wish I worked as a Linux system administrator for like a year or two before I got into DevOps and SRE, because once you do that for 2 years, a lot of the issues that you're gonna encounter in Kubernetes, including CNI, including CNI, including role-based access control, including namespaces, deploying in a particular namespace, and a lot of issues you're going to encounter in Kubernetes, you would have already seen in a different form in Linux, because that's really the same infrastructure that Kubernetes is using. That would be my one advice. Then my second, where I think I people keep saying AI, but I think AI is gonna have, like, I don't see AI ever being able to do like SRE or DevOps work. Honestly, I don't see AI doing software.
I think we lost them. Are you still here? Yeah, I think we lost our guest, but yeah, I feel like this was a good show. Abuchi gave us deep insight into the field of DevOps and cloud engineering. Yeah, if you want to reach out to him, his contact information is in the description. But we thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll catch you next